there's still a level of work that has to be done. Okay. There's still a level of work that has to be done. And I want you guys to be remembered well. I want us to stop dropping the ball when it comes to our personal well being. I want us to be remembered as someone who prioritized themselves. Many of you struggle with that. I want you guys to be remembered as someone who had a hold and a control over the common temptations at life that the average person falls victim to. Like, you're still not done. And I hate to break it to you, like, you followed the system, right? You followed the system, but many of you are in that season now where you're realizing, like, yo, I got to reroute some energy and some resources now to my health. I have to reroute some resources and energy now to my well-being. I got to reroute some energy and some resources now to my healing. There's still some parts of me that's bottlenecking my progress because I'm unhealed, whether that be unhealed from the neck down or the neck up. You're realizing that now, and I'm just here to confirm that which you already know. Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol Podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health. So last month, I lost a man who courageously and generously acted as my father for the past 25 years and a partner and loving husband to my mom. And they were together for 32 years. So this episode is all about how you want to be remembered. Today is about lessons after loss. Today's episode is dedicated to my father because in experiencing this loss, which just happened to be the first major loss I've ever experienced in my life, I've learned some lessons and I've had some time to reflect on this type of loss. And in the grieving process, I've had a serious revelation that I thought I would love to share with you guys. Now, in this experience in the past several months and the adjustments we've had to make as a family, it reminded me of a devotional I read a few weeks ago. And so I want to start off today by reading that devotional to you guys and kind of tying it together with the loss of my father and how I want to start thinking going forward as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as a leader. And I hope it resonates with a lot of you guys. So the devotional started off with a story, and it went like this. In 1888, on a freezing cold January morning in Switzerland, Alfred Nobel picked up his morning newspaper. At the time, Alfred was known globally as the inventor of dynamite and one of the world's leading weaponry manufacturers. When he picked up the newspaper, the headline read, "Today, Alfred Nobel has passed away." Completely confused, he called the newspaper to report the error. It turned out that a rushed, overly keen reporter had failed to check the names and wrote the mistaken headline. It was an unusual chance for him to see his life as others saw it. And Alfred was stunned to find out that he was known as the Merchant of Death due to his business in war. He was changed deeply by this experience, and he resolved to change his legacy. In the next weeks, he sold his business and arranged that his fortune would fund an award to be given to those who did the most for the cause of peace in the world. And so today, as we remember Alfred Nobel, not as the arms merchant, but as the founder of the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever heard this story. I don't know how many of you knew the history of the Nobel Peace Prize. But when I read this story in my devotional several weeks ago, I was moved by it. Who would have known that the Nobel Peace Prize, the founder of the Nobel Peace Prize, was once known for war? was once known for manufacturing weapons, right? Who knew that the founder of the Nobel Peace Prize was the inventor of dynamite? Like, this was very, very intriguing to me. But what I love so much about this story is how he made a decision to change what he was known for, how he made a decision to change how he was remembered. And so last month, when I spoke at my father's funeral, I, of course, prepared to speak. And so as I was getting divine downloads from God and thinking about what I wanted to share at my father's funeral, it made me start thinking about how when somebody passes, what's most reflected is how other people saw them. When somebody passes, you really get to see from other people's perspectives and interactions with them who they were to that person and how they were remembered. And so when I spoke at his funeral last month, I ended with this line that I'm going to share with you. And it goes like this: for those of us who desire the final remarks about our lives to be glowing, it's not too late to change how you'll be remembered. I'm going to say it again. When I spoke at my father's funeral last month, I ended it by saying, for those of us who desire the final remarks about our lives to be glowing, it's not too late to change how we'll be remembered. I want to pose the question to you guys. How do you want to be remembered? For a lot of us, we're ending our year by spending some time in thought and reflection about maybe what went well, about what we're looking to accomplish going forward, about who we want to be and who we want to become. And as we're aggregating all of that data, I want to invite us to think about how we want to be remembered. And this is not in a morbid way, right? But this isn't in such a way that for a lot of us, one of the things we're encouraged to do is to run full speed ahead in the opposite directions of other people's opinions. Not only that, for a lot of us, we're paralyzed by what other people think of us. But I don't think that it is wrong to care about what other people think. I also don't believe it's wrong to be a people pleaser, right? The issue comes into play when those things are excessive and so excessive that they compromise how you take action on your own life. And so, for those of you who are moving forward with us and doing our 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar free challenge, and for those of you who are making a decision to prioritize your health in this season, for those of you who are making a decision to prioritize your well being, to work towards eliminating chronic stress and all of those things, I want you to spend some time thinking about how you want to be remembered. And so I want to pose a few questions to you guys as I have been reflecting on my father and all of the, oh my God, wonderful remarks that were made at his funeral. And as I was thinking about all the different branches of people that came up to speak, you had everything from family members to next door neighbors to children, siblings, spouses. Like, everyone was remembering him in this most phenomenal way. And when I spoke, I talked about, in the beginning of my talk at the funeral, I talked about how I've always sat in the audience at funerals and wondered if the kind remarks that people were saying about the person were always true, or if it was just a politically correct thing to do. And I was so blessed to know unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, that the kind things that were being said about the man who acted as my father for the past 25 years were true. I was so blessed to know and not have any suspicion that maybe some of these people were just being nice because it's the right thing to do at a funeral. I had firsthand experience with this person for 25 years. I watched him be a husband to my mom, and I watched him be a father to me and my sister. And I was like, wow, now this is how we should all aim to be remembered. And so as you move into this next season of growth, development, respite, rest, health, wholeness, healing, whatever you're looking forward to, financial freedom, whatever you're looking forward to, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as someone who had a whole bunch of false starts and unsuccessful finishes? Do you want to be remembered as someone who did a great job of starting things, did a great job with activation energy, but did a horrible job with getting to the finish line? For those of you who are coming into the challenge with us, do you want to be remembered as someone who never finished? Do you want to be remembered as someone who was vibrant, thriving, energetic, with wholeness and well being and a glow about them? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who was reliant on medications, who was reliant on family and friends to take care of them? Not because they had an unfortunate circumstance in life, but because of their own personal choices that made you dependent on other people, not because of something that was outside of your control, but because of something that was well within your control. Like, how do you want to be remembered? Because we're about to do something that's arguably quite difficult. Like me and my team, when we lead this challenge, when we invite people into our coaching programs, when we help people get their coaching businesses off the ground, like I'm fully aware that we are asking you to do something that is extremely challenging. And I'm also fully aware that many people, even though they'll start, they won't get to the finish line. I'm fully aware that the show up rate that we have on day one will continue to dwindle as the weeks go on. So, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who executed on your ideas and assignment, or who took them to the graveyard like many people before you? How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who God could trust with an assignment? How do you want to be remembered? Like, this is so pivotal to me because when I was thinking deeper about this, I realized that while this divine download is coming into the context of life and death, right? How we want to be remembered is not just about how we want to be remembered after our expiration date on this earth. How we want to be remembered is not just about what people think of us after we pass on and what people say about us at our funeral, but it's also about how we want to be remembered in the next season of somebody else's life. Again, this is not just about life or death. This is not just about what happens at the end of your life. This is not just about what happens after your expiration date. But my invitation here is for you guys to begin thinking about how you want to be remembered now. So, remembrance is not just for death, remembrance is also for past seasons in our life. So, here's what I mean. When I was thinking about past experiences, past relationships, past communities I've been in, past teams that I've led, one of the things that I often reflect on is how I'm remembered in those spaces. Does anybody else ever think about this? Like, what do people think of me when I'm gone? And not just, again, not gone off planet Earth, but just like gone out of that ecosystem. Like, I used to be the executive director of a nonprofit, and I had a team of people that I led. And I know unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, that the version of the leader that I am today is not the version of the leader I was then. I didn't have as much self-awareness then as a leader. I didn't have as much leadership experience then as a leader. And so I wonder how that team remembers me, right? I know as a coach, I haven't always been the coach I am today because naturally, the longer we do things, ideally, the better we become at them. And so I know the dynamic, dope, super effective coach that I am today is not the same coach I was when I first started my coaching company 10 years ago. So I wonder how those first couple years of clients remember me. I know in past relationships, I haven't always been as conscious and aware of my behavior and my own unhealed parts of myself that I am today. So I wonder how past partners remember me. Like, I know the community I am in now is not obviously the same communities I was in several years ago for my business or for personal growth. So I wonder how those communities remember me. I also know that there are some people who don't live well in my memories. Right? Like, when I say, how do you want to be remembered? This is not just for after your expiration date. This is at the end of this challenge that we're about to do together. How do you want to be remembered? Like, do you want to be remembered as someone who was like in the front row, raising your hand, active in community, and all of a sudden you just ghosted the whole situation and we never saw you again? Right? You abandoned the whole assignment because it got too hard or you were too imperfect. Like, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who abandons things? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who runs when it gets challenging? Do you want to be remembered as somebody who's too scared to speak up for themselves? Like, there's people in my memory who are not remembered well. Like, I can think, like, let me tell you guys something. Like, as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship comes with a ton of peaks and valleys. And I was coaching a business client like a week and a half ago, and we were setting their pricing. And one of the things that she and her team were kind of concerned about were like, if we have a payment plan for this program, like, what can we do to ensure that people uphold their end of the bargain and pay what they agreed to pay? And I was giving them some tips on things we can put in place to increase the chances that people will fulfill their financial agreement. But I told her, I said, with every business comes attrition. And I told her, no business has a 100% success rate with getting the money that people promised them they would pay. There's a bunch of things that we can put in place that I've done over the years. But I told her, I was like, I just want to set your expectations. If you have someone that abandons their payment arrangement or abandons their payment agreement, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong as a leader or as an entrepreneur. It just comes with business. There is a level of expectation that comes with business. And the point of me telling you this is that there's people, past clients and past students that we've had here at our coaching company who I don't remember well because of how negligent they were with our agreement. I've had people who have signed agreements, legal documents saying that I'm going to pay this amount of money in exchange for these services over this period of time. And I've had people who have abandoned that agreement. I've had people that I've had to threaten with legal action. Like, I have people who, in my mind, are not remembered as integrous, are not remembered as individuals who can be trusted. So suffice it to say, everyone is not remembered well. Like, I have people who, when I see their names or I see some of these people are bold enough to still show up in my ecosystem. Some of these people are still bold enough to come watch my lives and sign up for some of our programs. I'm like, what in the heck? You don't get the privilege to buy from me again. I don't trust you. In other words, I don't remember you well. You're not remembered well in my mind, right? I have people who have done things, treated my team in a negative, nasty way. I have blacklisted people in our system because of the way they've spoken to my team. I don't remember those people well. I have an ex-friend who I remember years ago, y'all. She was telling me that she had recently got a new therapist, and she was really bragging about this therapist. And she was like, this therapist is amazing, one of the best I've ever had. And it was a whole thing. And I was like, yo, that's amazing. And then not too long after, I had another friend who was going through something really tough. She had a miscarriage, they had lost a baby, and it was really disheartening. And so she really was seeking a therapist. And I was like, oh, my other friend, she just was telling me about this great therapist that she has. Let me reach out to her, get the name of that therapist, and get a recommendation for you. And my other friend was like, oh, perfect. Thank you. And I reached out to this friend like, yo, what's your therapist information? I have another friend who's really in need right now. Like, her and her husband are going through something difficult and they're looking for some therapeutic support. And this lady was like, no, I'm not telling you the name of my therapist. I'm not giving you the information. Tell her to reach out to her insurance provider and maybe they can make recommendations. And that was so shocking to me that I don't know if this was the right or wrong decision, but this was my decision at the time that I ended the friendship. I was so disgusted by her unwillingness to share a resource that I decided to end the friendship. Now, I don't know if that was extreme, and I honestly don't care. It felt really good, and I didn't end it in a negative way. I just put distance, then more distance, and eventually she asked me about the distance, and I was honest with her. It wasn't a big thing. I'm like, that really turned me off. right? And we all get to have our preferences around the character traits that we want in our friends. And that was my preference. I wanted someone who I felt like shared, like, to me, it was thinking in a scarcity mindset. I'm like, why wouldn't you share your therapist information? Like, whatever you shared with the therapist is not compromised by recommending your therapist to somebody else, right? Especially since you have been bragging about them to me. But anyway, I digress. But my point is that friend is not remembered well in my mind. And what's so crazy is she's probably remembered well by other people whose lives she isn't in anymore because she's a super cool person. But her and I had this one unique experience that caused her not to be remembered well in my mind. And for many of us, that is a similar situation where we have displayed at different iterations and versions of ourselves, we have all, and myself included, we have all displayed characteristics, traits, made decisions that caused us not to be remembered well by people while we're still living. And so, my invitation here today, in thinking about the loss of my father and how he was remembered, is that we do everything in our power to be remembered well, not just after our death, but today. Like, work hard so that your coach remembers you well. Like, be integrous, right? Work hard so that your community remembers you well, so that your neighbors remember you well. We all are going to go through growth periods. It is a natural thing to learn from experiences where we didn't show up as our best, but it's not as natural to go into the next experience trying to correct that, right? Like, go into your next relationship, your next marriage, your next friendship, your next community as the better version of yourself so that when you exit that friendship, or if you have to exit that relationship, or if you decide to move on from that community, be conscious of how you be remembered. I don't want to be remembered as somebody who rushes people when they talk. I don't want to be remembered as somebody who didn't have patience for other people. I don't want to be remembered as somebody who didn't give grace when it was necessary. I don't want to be remembered as someone who didn't fulfill their financial obligations or promises. Like, how do you want to be remembered? My father was remembered so well, and I was just so impressed. I'm like, how can you become more impressed with somebody after death than you were during life? Like I said, he was courageous enough to be a father to myself and my sister for 25 years. And just speaking at his funeral and listening to how he was remembered got me to thinking, like, wow, remembrance is not just for death. Right now, as I go into our 11th year in business, I think and reflect on how my first administrative assistants remember me. I think and reflect on how my first clients remember me. I think and reflect on how the person I used to be engaged to remembers me. Like, even though the relationship didn't work out, right? Was I able to make an impact and leave a good impression? And let me say this, because this is really important, because again, we are always constantly encouraged to not care what other people think. And there is a space for that, because when it becomes excessive, when we are constantly consumed about what other people think of us, it can absolutely do damage. It can absolutely do psychological damage if all we think about is how we are perceived by other people. But that doesn't mean there's not a space to care about how we're perceived by other people. So when you sign up for something, do you finish it? When you say you're going to do something, do you do it? When it's time to tell somebody how you feel, or how something made you feel, or how dissatisfied you are with something, do you still do it with kindness? How are you remembered? This is very important. So there's people, most of us, just because I know my audience, right? So when I say most of you, I'm not talking to the world at large. I'm talking to you guys that are listening right now. I'm talking to my people, who are super educated, experienced, spiritual. A lot of my audience is like, has a relationship with God. You guys have degrees in education. You guys struggle with imposter syndrome, believing in yourself. You guys struggle with faith. Like, I know my particular audience, okay? You guys like to get things right and don't like to look like that you don't know, even though you don't be knowing. But you don't like to look like you don't know. It's hard for you to be new at stuff. Like, I know who I'm talking to, okay? So here's what I want to tell you as we begin to bring this to an end, which is, Most of you have done a phenomenal job. Most of you have done a phenomenal job with being a good person. Like you've got being a good person down pat. Most of you have a relationship with God. Most of you will absolutely stop and help an old lady across the street. Like most of you have self awareness. Like you know what your strengths are, you know what your flaws are, you know what areas you need to grow in. Like you know what part of your diet needs work, you know what you're afraid of. Like most of you guys have level of self awareness. You're also really educated. Most of you guys like have raised kids and have taken pride in being parents. You guys have are spouses and you take pride in being husbands and wives, right? Like you care for your parents. Like most of you guys are really good people. Like you do the right things. When I say the right things, it's like what society would deem as the right thing to do. Like meaning when someone you love gets sick, you are willing to step up and be a caregiver to that person. Like you guys are good people on paper, right? And in real life, like you volunteer, right? You help kids learn to read. You sign up for ministries at church. Like you're active in your sororities and your fraternities and your community organizations. Like you even donate money here and there. You try and invest in yourself in personal development and 30-day challenges. Like you guys are on it. You're good people. But I came here today to tell you that you're still not done. And sometimes this can be disheartening because when you work so hard to be a good person as society defines it, sometimes it's hard to accept the fact that there's still work to be done. Because we're like, listen, God, I'm checking all the boxes and I'm doing everything right, right? Why am I still not there yet? I'm like, I'm a good person. Like I do right by people. Like I keep trying to get better every year as a human. Like I'm trying to eat like I got some sense. Like God, but I came here to tell you today, you're still not done. There's a few things left for you to do. And health, optimal health, is the cost of entry into that next season. And you're realizing that now, a lot of you, because the other thing I know about my audience is that many of you guys have at least one chronic condition, at least one chronic condition. Many of you are struggling with something in your health, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional health. Like you're doing most of what you know to do to be a good person, somebody who is seen as a good person, but you're still not done. You're still not done. And I hate to break it to you, like you followed the system, right? You followed the system, but many of you are in that season now where you're realizing, like, yo, I got to reroute some energy and some resources now to my health. I have to reroute some resources and energy now to my well being. I got to reroute some energy and some resources now to my healing. There's still some parts of me that's bottlenecking my progress because I'm unhealed, whether that be unhealed from the neck down or the neck up. You're realizing that now, and I'm just here to confirm that which you already know. There's still a level of work that has to be done. Okay. There's still a level of work that has to be done. And I want you guys to be remembered well. I want us to stop dropping the ball when it comes to our personal well being. I want us to be remembered as someone who prioritized themselves. Many of you struggle with that. I want you guys to be remembered as someone who had a hold and a control over the common temptations at life that the average person falls victim to. Like, I want you guys to be remembered well. Like, my father was remembered well, and I am so grateful and blessed to have been a recipient of that type of unconditional love. Like it takes a special type of man to take on children that were not biologically his own. It's a special type of man. And I grieve for him and I grieve for my mom who lost her husband, lost her life partner for 32 years. And let me tell you something else I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful to have witnessed a Black woman being loved well. I've never talked about this publicly, and I don't share a lot about my personal life because it's my personal life, right? But y'all, my parents had the most blissful marriage I've ever been witness to. And it has caused me, thank God, to work so hard and diligently to create a blissful relationship for myself. Like I work every day to have a blissful relationship in the relationship that I'm currently in because partly of what I witnessed for, like, not only is my father being remembered well, but the love that he gave to my mom is being remembered well. Like seeing a Black woman be loved so unconditionally is such an advantage in life. I don't have to try and figure it out. I don't have to try and guess what that should look like. I know firsthand whether I'm receiving that because I watched my mom receive it. I know firsthand what adjustments she had to make to receive it. And I know firsthand what adjustments I need to make in order to receive it. What a blessing. There's so many lessons from loss. And so I just want you guys to understand that if Alfred Noble could change what he was remembered for, which was creating dynamite and manufacturing weapons, and make a decision that even that late in life, he wanted to be known for peace. And he decided to create the Nobel Peace Prize. I think all of us also have the opportunity to decide what we want to be known for and how we want to be remembered. So everything that you start from this day forward, I will invite you to consider how you want to be remembered. Like when you first enter that Zoom room and when you first raise your hand for the first time to ask a question or make a comment, how do you want to be remembered? When you step into that classroom, for those of you who are returning to a learning environment, right? When you go out on that first date, when you take that next leap of faith, for those of you who are moving into a space where you're going to be creating content for the world to consume, when you turn on that mic and record your first episode, at the end of this episode, if this happens to be my last one, how do you want to be remembered? I just don't think we think about the end often enough, and not the end of life, but just the end of this podcast or the end of this job or the end of this relationship. If for some reason it doesn't go as planned and it's not your forever relationship, and if for some reason, if this current role turns out to not to be your forever role and the last job you'll work, if for some reason this friendship doesn't follow you to the end of your life, act every day as if you are cognizant of how you want to be remembered. We would all do each other a better service if we acted with the end in mind. So if there's nothing else you take away from this episode today, it is contrary to what we've been taught and what we're constantly told every day. It is safe to care about what other people think. Contrary to all of the advice that you've gotten before this moment that told you, just stop caring what they think. Just stop caring what they say. It is actually healthy to have care about what other people think and say about you. Make your goal to be remembered well. Make your goal to be remembered as somebody who finishes the things they start. Make your goal to be remembered as someone who was vibrant and energetic and healthy. Make your goal to be remembered as somebody who woke up every day and tried their hardest to give God a return on his investment in you. He gave you another day. What are you going to give him in return? Let's just try harder. Let's just try harder to give a damn about how we're remembered in this season of life. So those have been my lessons from the loss of my father last month. And I hope this sets a great foundation for how we'll move together into this challenge, right? As we live and we learn and we lose, ideally we become better people because of it. And so my mission is to be a better person because of who I watched him be. And I can only hope the same for all of you. So for every single person that will be joining us in this 30-day vegan challenge, may the best version of you win. That's it for me today, guys. But I want to thank you guys for holding space for me and my feelings and sharing about my father today. I really appreciate you guys. And I hope the reflection on his life and his legacy was helpful for you guys. Okay, it's been real, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Blessings to y'all. Bye, y'all. You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.